Hello and welcome to the Vocal Sound Healing Podcast, episode 1. What is vocal sound healing? What's it all about? My name is Alexandra Rigazzi-Tarling and I've been training vocal sound healing practitioners for the last 10 years. I've been a vocal sound healing practitioner for about the last 16 years and I'm also a vocal coach and technician. As a former opera singer, I've worked with voice for well over 25 years, and it just seemed time to bring this podcast to light. There are a couple of other episodes that I've done in the past, but more recently, I've really been asked by people, what is vocal sound healing? What do you do? I don't understand it. Tell me more. And I thought, perhaps it is time now for a podcast. So we'll try to get these episodes out every week. We'll see what happens. And this is really an informal space where I will offer various topics every week and perhaps even invite guests to come and talk to us as well. But for the moment, let's get on with what vocal sound healing is. Now, there's always a big elephant in the room when we talk about vocal sound healing, because the first question that I always get asked, and I've covered this before in other interviews, but the first question I always get asked is, do I need to have a good voice, whatever a good voice is? Do I need to be a singer to be a vocal sound healer? And the answer is no, because your voice, the vibration of your voice, is enough. That's what we're looking to develop with vocal sound healing. And if you're thinking about being a vocal sound healing practitioner, yes, you absolutely need to have a willingness to work with your voice. But even if you're looking at vocal sound healing for self-healing, for well-being tools, for nervous system regulation, we're not looking at the quality of the voice. We're looking at just being able to sound with the voice, to hum with the voice, to ah with the voice, and so on. Yes, as we go through this interview, you'll see that we work with other things like chant and mantra and so forth. But even then, it's not a performance. It's not about standing up and proving your worth as a singer. It's about using your voice as a vibratory tool for your healing. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. Episode 1, we're not talking about performance here. We're talking about your right as a human being to sound. And through that sounding, through that humming, through that self-acceptance, healing occurs. So working with vocal sound healing, even from the very beginning, and asking, do I need to be a good singer? Do I need to have a good voice? That straight away suggests that healing needs to take place there, because it's not about that. It's not about you being perfect. It's about you accessing your personal tool for healing. And this is one of the most empowering things I think about vocal sound healing. And I've worked with so many people that have come to me knowing that they wanted to use their voice to heal and to help others, to heal themselves, but just feeling that they were at zero confidence with it. And actually working with sound healing as a regular practice, a vocal sound healing as a regular practice, actually then we start to build an acceptance of our sound. And actually that is number one. That is number one. When it comes to vocal sound healing, what is it? It's building an acceptance of your vocal sound. A simple hum, a simple tone. And people come with all different types of voices. And actually some of the voices that seem, or people have been told that they've got the loudest sound or the harshest sound, or, that it hurts their ears, they're actually the ones bringing these sounds, these voices that are full of harmonics, full of healing harmonics. And we'll save that for another episode. But never discredit your sound. Your voice is there to heal you, to regulate your nervous system and beyond. that is just the tip of the iceberg. And then if you want to use your voice to help heal others, that is an option too. And we are all perfectly capable of that. We have to learn about it. Usually we need to take some sort of course, but we all have that ability. So one of the reasons for working and creating a vocal sound healing podcast like this, was to spread that word, to actually start to empower people to see their voice as something that reflects their state of health, their state of well-being, their state of mind, and to give them the tools to work with it. So that's quite a serious introduction. And I'm going to turn to my sheet here because I've got a list of things to cover for this podcast, and I want to make sure that I cover them. So, this idea of voice and performance has come because we have access to lots of music, radio, Spotify, all of those things. And we hear lots of different artists sounding, and perhaps we have our own favourite singer and so on. But it's all very accessible to us. The radio is always on, people are singing, and we start to benchmark ourselves with those professional singers. And also all of the sound processes their voice goes through in order to create that recording. And actually, that is sounding like somebody else. So when we try to sing, like another singer, or we sing a genre that we like, perhaps a pop song or a jazz song, or we sing an operatic aria, we are placing our voice in a genre, and we're tuning ourselves and our voice to that genre. But that is not where vocal sound healing comes from. Vocal sound healing has been around since the dawn of time. When we think about Shiva and his drum banging these vowel sounds, these Sanskrit sounds into existence. And we understand from that lineage that these simple vowel sounds, this simple vibration of a hum or om, that these sounds actually brought sound and matter into existence. So if we want to take it all the way back, we didn't have the radio blaring all the way back then. We just had this idea of sound and the power of sound and the power that our voice holds because it can sound and therefore create form, create matter. And I'll go into that in a minute. But what I'm trying to communicate here is that our voices have been used throughout the ages for healing, whether that's sounding together in ceremony, whether it's sounding chants, mantra, all of these things, ancient things, with the idea of bringing healing. It wasn't the idea of bringing a nice voice or bringing a sound that sounded like whoever it is on the radio. It was about bringing your sound as part of ceremony, as part of ritual, as part of worship, as part of honouring somebody, and also for yourself. So that's number one. Vocal sound healing has been used for years and years and years. It's not a new thing. People say, oh, what's this new fad? It's not new. It's been around forever, literally. So that's the first thing. And I think now, if I just go on to, because I've just talked about the form and the matter and Shiva and all of that, I think now what's really great is that our friend science has been showing us that everything as we perceive it in our physical reality is actually a mass of vibrating particles and atoms. I won't go into all of that now. That's beyond the scope of this podcast and probably beyond the scope of my qualifications. But if we want to take this just at surface value, it is acknowledged that everything physical is actually vibrating. So even with the most solid object, if you break it down, take it all the way down to what forms that object, it's a mass. of particles that are vibrating. Now, we know that if something is vibrating, it has a resonance, which means it has a frequency. And a frequency means it has a pitch, it has sound. So when we start to look at the world in that very vibratory form, it starts to change our perception. So if we think about ourselves as solid matter, so my arm, my leg, my head here is pretty solid. But if we break that down, I'm actually looking at myself as a mass of energetic particles, which means that I'm moving, I'm vibrating. I'm not as solid as I thought. So if I'm not as solid as I thought, I'm more changeable, where does that leave us? And then what is my voice? So if my voice is coming from this mass of vibrating particles, what is my voice? So I like to think that the voice is a reflection, is a signal from all of those vibrating parts that I am. All of my organs vibrating, my bones, my blood, all of the water. We know that we're 70-80% water, and water is matter, so it's therefore vibrating. And it also means that water is a very good medium for conducting sound. So actually my body is designed to conduct sound. And so my voice then is this signal, is a manifestation of my vibrating body. And that makes perfect sense to me, because with the amount of voices that I've worked with over the years, I can tell what someone's feeling, I can tell how someone's state of health. There are so many aspects of who they are that I can hear just in their voice. And when they start to work with voice more regularly and work with voice with healing intention, I can hear the voice change. I can hear the voice shift as their energy shifts, as their vibration shifts. So vocal sound healing, if we look at everything that science tells us about vibration, about matter, what we feel then about the voice being a reflection of that, vocal sound healing is a very powerful tool for changing our own form, for changing our own matter. So when we're sounding and we're using our voice with intention, we can be changing structures in our body that perhaps aren't as healthy as they could be. And likewise, with vocal sound healing, we can do that for somebody else. So let's just have a quick look at some of the different aspects of vocal sound healing, because just singing for fun, singing for joy in itself is very healing. And again, science has plenty of papers that tell us that endorphins are released in the system when we sing together with other people. Oxytocin, that's the bonding hormone, the love hormone, that's released so we feel included. There are lots of different research papers from different angles that show us that singing for fun is really good for us. So, that is absolutely one aspect of vocal sound healing. But because we're not focusing on the singing, we take it a little bit deeper than that. So first of all, with vocal sound healing, we're looking at simple, pure tone. And pure tone could be as simple as a hum, like this. So if you just try a simple hum, so it's simple, it's unforced, it's not you trying to sound louder than somebody else, sound better than somebody else, sound like your favourite singer. It's just a hum. So we strip it all back just to that hum, and we practice that hum on different pitches, with deepened breath, always with an awareness of diaphragmatic breathing. And then we can take that into simple vowels. So from a hum, we might go into an R, and it's just a simple ah, or ooh. Very simple, elongated sounds. And we know that the vagus nerve, which is responsible for regulating our nervous system, we know that it innervates at points throughout the larynx, the pharynx, the vocal folds, and the diaphragm. So when we implore our belly breathing and we just vibrate gently with the vocal folds, we know that we are stimulating the vagus nerve. And when we stimulate the vagus nerve, what we're working on is something called vagal tone. And vagal tone means that if we have a good vagal tone, it means that we recover from stress more efficiently and hopefully quickly as well. So it means that we can regulate ourselves. We can move from dysregulation to regulation quicker. So we want good vagal tone. And if we practice for self-healing, humming a few times a week, gentle sounding a few times a week, perhaps even a 10-minute practice Monday, Wednesday and Friday, just as a sort of meditative, quietening practice, we know, we've seen the results, we know that we feel better, we feel more regulated, we feel more centered. It does something to our body on a very deep level. It brings us into that state of nervous system regulation, wherever you are in that. And the real bonus of this is because if you have suffered trauma and you can't work with silence, and you are triggered by meditative practices, when you're sounding, you have something very tangible to do. And this is the beauty of it. You're not being asked to sit in silence and clear your mind. You're being asked just to sit and hum, sit and sound some vowels, not to worry about what it sounds like, just to focus on the breath and the sound. And with practice, that starts to bring us into a state of positive vagal tone. So that's number one, and that can be used for self-healing, but also that can be used with others, so as a practitioner. We then have things like chanting and mantra. So mantra is based around the Eastern tradition, where we use Sanskrit sounds for chanting simple mantras or more complicated mantras, if that's what you want. And the mantra brings the energy, the frequency of the thing you are chanting to. So let's say, for example, that you're sounding a mantra to Ganesh, the energy of Ganesh, the elephant. And the elephant is understood to remove obstacles from your pathway, or at least make clear to you what is there so you can work to remove them yourself. So we might sound Om Ganganapataye Namaha, Om Ganganapataye Namaha. And we might sit and chant that for 5-10 minutes. We might start at 2 minutes and build up that practice. We might do that alone or in a group. And there are so many studies, again, to show us the well-being benefits of chanting mantra. And there's a wonderful lady in Australia called Dr. Gemma Perry, and she's co-written many papers on the positive effects of chanting mantra. And just to show us that how powerful they are. But know as well that these mantras go all the way back to, again, that Sanskrit tradition. So thousands of years ago, when these chants were sounded and used as devotion, used in worship. So when we use them in vocal sound healing now, we bring that energy that it's been infused with throughout all of those thousands of years. We bring that into the present time, and that energy becomes available to us. So we have Sanskrit chanting, mantra, but we also have chants from many different traditions, and they're simple songs, perhaps Native American traditions, African traditions. All across the world there are chants, and people will have come together to sound these as communities, and there would have been chants for grounding, chants for medicine, all of the different things used for healing, and we still use those today. We can use them with voice, we can bring in drums and rattles, and here we're working with rhythm. We're working with rhythm and voice and the power of entrainment. So entrainment is when a stronger, more coherent force affects a weaker one, and usually the weaker force will start to join with the stronger force. So for example, if I'm sounding, Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. If I'm sounding that over and over and over, that rhythm is very strong. If you're sounding that in a group, and it has this wonderful, again, regulating effect on the body. Not only is it bringing the energy down into your feet, you want to get up and dance around, but it's bringing that rhythm into your body to help calm and entrain all of the different pulses going on in your body. So if you think about your body, all the different organs, they all have a pulse, a rhythm, whether it's the heart, which we all know, if we're not resting, if we're stressed, the heart rate can increase. But all of the other organs all have pulses as well. And we want those pulses to be working in harmony with each other. We want all the different parts of our body to be working together. So it can be that singing a simple chant like that and repeating the chant over and over starts to create a coherent, consistent force in the space that we can entrain to help regulate ourselves. So that's where the healing is coming in. We know that healing, Jonathan Goldman taught us this, frequency plus intention equals healing. But entrainment plays a huge part in that healing process, that we entrain, that we are drawn towards a stronger, coherent force, whether that's for our good or not so good. In vocal sound healing, for our good, we're working with rhythms that really complement the body and complement our well-being. And then probably, there are many aspects to vocal sound healing, but one of the ones closest to my heart, and also the one that I've been teaching for the last 10 years, is using the voice. It can be done for self-healing as well, but I'm just going to talk about this from a point of view of administering vocal sound healing to another person. So what we do is we work with something called vocal scanning, where the vocal sound healing practitioner will actually scan a person's energy field with their voice using a simple tone. So it might be just using a whoa. And as they sound that tone over a person's body, they will listen to fluctuations in the sound. They'll also be working in a very deep intuitive state. So there might be more than just the vocal fluctuations, but basically sensing for where there are imbalances in the body, imbalances in the energy. And we work with this predominantly in the etheric body, but also further out into the emotional body. And then once we've scanned for areas perhaps of energy stagnation, we begin to sound into those areas with pure tone to help tune, to help harmonize. And this form of vocal sound healing is not yet as well known. I've trained probably a couple of hundred people to do it, but in terms of the world, that's very few. But this, for me, is a really powerful way of working with our voice. And it's particularly good for people that are already energy workers, energy practitioners, because they'll already have that intuitive understanding of working with energy. But it's not limited to those people. And I'm currently in the process of developing systems with the acupressure points and the meridians to work with a slightly more tangible structure in this, and more will be revealed next year when I launch courses on that. But this way of working is particularly powerful as well for the practitioner, because in order to learn to work that way, you need to get to know your own voice and your own sound very reliably, which takes practice. And of course, when we start practicing our own vocal sound, we start moving our own energy and clearing our own stuff. So it's a very exciting way of working, because in giving sound healing or vocal sound healing, we're receiving it. And other elements of working in that way may include working with musical intervals over the body, pure intervals. So not in the form of music, but actually in the form of simple scales. And also using vowel sounds and mantras to balance the energy centers. And ultimately encouraging the client to express their own energy through the frequency of their voice. So this way of working is very dear to me, because it's something, as I said, I've been training people to do for the last 10 years. And it's something that I'm hoping now to bring more to the forefront of this modality, because it helps us understand so deeply about energy, about what we really are, that actually everything, when we're working with the power of intention, is possible. And having taken this work not only in person but online as well, and what that has shown has been really, really exciting, and I'll bring that into later podcast topics. But for now, I just want to leave you with that. I think it's already quite a lot of information. But just to say that everything that we do with our voice is guided by our intention. If we're working with vocal sound healing, if we're working with any form of sound healing, we need to be working with a clear intention, an intention from the heart. And that, coupled with the less is more approach, really helps us to work very effectively in this modality. So, folks, thank you very much for joining me for episode 1, and I look forward to seeing you next week for episode 2. And don't forget, you can find this on YouTube and Spotify, and do subscribe, because then you'll be alerted for every episode that comes up. So take good care, folks. Happy vocal sound healing, and see you soon. Bye for now.